Two people converse about how many applicants show up this year. One of them brings up a question to the other that how many does he think will become celestial knights? He responds they might not get a single one. One can't even become a formal knight without bearing a sword master, and becoming master isn't easy. Looking puzzled, he blurts out, aren't all of them sword masters? His friend seriously considers he was born and raised only in Azenka. He asks him if he seriously believes they are called a knight order that transcends nations, ruling over an entire city for no reason. It is the Celestial Knight Order that's strange, with every single knight being a sword master. Other countries barely have any sword masters at all. Yet here those very sword masters who infuse mana into their blood aura and unleash it are just regular knights. And above them, there are even monstrous Gyoza owners. So even in a place with no classes or instructors to train them, they flock here just for the chance to become a knight's attendant if they pass. Their current commander isn't just the youngest owner of the Holy Sword Rangiosa in history, but he is also the youngest commander of the Celestial Knight Order. The senior asks him if now he realizes how magnificent the Celestial Knight Order's prestige truly is. The junior replies no wonder there are so many applicants, but his attention is already elsewhere, fixed on a girl with pink hair. Without taking his eyes off her, he tells his senior to look at that one. He turns, mumbling about how he was spacing out, but his words falter the moment he sees her. A nearby knight steps forward, eyeing her up and down. Is she seriously planning to participate in that outfit? He blurts out, what in the world, showing up to the Azenka cadet selection exam dressed like that? Is the girl out of her mind? One look at her and they have decided she cannot even swing a sword. The junior snorts. Does she think this is a banquet hall or something? The senior believes she probably doesn't even have the strength to lift it, let alone swing it. To him, she looks exactly like some naive young lady who ran away from home after reading too many romance novels without a clue. He makes a bet for a silver coin that she drops her sword and bursts into tears. The junior was going to make the same bet when cold, commanding voice slices through the murmurs, demanding to know the source of the commotion. From the shadows steps Yuri into hardened Kyrier, his long silver hair flowing, the revered commander of the Celestial Knight Order. The senior quickly brushes off the interruption, explaining they are merely discussing an unusual applicant. Urian's piercing gaze drifts to the girl, his eyes widening in surprise. The senior grumbles under his breath, questioning even if she's just some clueless young lady. What on earth does she take this military academy before? He never thought he would see an applicant dressed like that at the Azenka selection exam, of all places. Urian, unfazed, challenges their doubts, asking if they truly believe she will fail. The senior dismisses her chances as obvious, insisting that it will be difficult enough for her to swing the sword in that attire, let alone fight. But then, to everyone's shock, Urian places a decisive bet that she will not only pass but do so with the highest score. Without hesitation, the girl charges forward, sword in hand, slicing the training wood cleanly in two. And just like that, the verdict echoes through the hall. Ekanesha has passed. Both the men look in absolute shock. Urian orders them to bring her file. Ekanesha Rose is a 20-year-old female, eldest daughter of Count Rose's family, named after the pink flower. Ekanesha, a name that suits her perfectly, so striking that he wouldn't forget it easily. The her, Urian knew from the future, wasn't an Azenka cadet, nor did she have that vibrant pink hair that suits her so well now. He murmurs she is different. Meanwhile, she stands amidst the greenery. A voice asks if she is planning to ditch him again, her heartless master. She replies obviously. Why else does he think she dragged herself all the way to Azenka? The voice remarks that is harsh, especially since he is the reason she even knows how to turn back time. He further tells her to lighten up and not to hunt on a past that has been erased. Without warning, she lashes out, ordering him to shut up and branding him a damn demon sword. If it were not for him, she would have never had to know any of this. A demon sword that manipulates its owner into committing murder, also known as Vertigiosa. After that day, the sword appeared before her. She killed everyone she loved with her own hands. The one person who still believed in her even when she became a demon was Urian. But then she closes her eyes, pushing the thought aside. She cannot afford to falter. This is where it all truly begins. To finally be free of this cursed demon sword forever, she cannot afford to be distracted by anything else. First, she needs to avoid Commander Urian as much as possible and focus solely on joining the Celestial Knight Order. She's convinced that even if he recalls the past, she will be fine. She looks so different now, it has to be okay. At 35, she turned back time, returning to her 20-year-old self. The second chance at life she has is so hard won. She cannot erase the past only to repeat it. This life isn't some stroke of luck handed to her. It is a miracle that she seized with her own two hands. She was born into the Rose County family. They didn't hold much power in the Kyrier Empire, but they were still a wealthy traditional house. Loving parents who adored each other. A kind little brother said to inherit the title and their quiet, graceful one and only daughter. They lived a peaceful, happy life. Until that sword ended up in her hand. The cursed blade changed everything. The demonic sword Vertigiosa, forged from human bloodlust, possesses its wielder and goes on a rampage of slaughter and destruction. Its power was overwhelming and would eventually tear the host apart, leaving the sword abandoned once more. But her body was different. Her insane affinity for mana kept her body from collapsing, and her natural physique was perfectly built for the blade's swordsmanship. That is how she became a once-in-a-generation prodigy and the demonic sword's chosen devil. She wishes she had never known. She never wanted to learn she was a genius like this. It all started with the people she loved. A famous mercenary somewhere. A respected swordmaster. Every last knight who was ever called promising. They all died by her hand. She couldn't understand why they couldn't kill her. She just wanted to lose for once, if there was even a sliver of a miracle out there. Urien stood before her, ready to strike her down. And all she wished was for him to be the one to defeat him. Urien hardened Kyrir, the third prince of the empire who cast aside his claim to the throne, and became the master of the holy sword Langwiosa, leader of the Azure Spear Order. He lived in a world too far from hers to reach. All she could do was watch him from afar, imagining what it might be like to meet him someday. But in those dreams, she never imagined meeting like this. The devil within her rejoiced that, despite being the captain of the Azure Spears, he didn't stand a chance against her. And then she launched an attack on him. The sword's voice echoed in her mind, "Kill them all." But she didn't want to kill him. Deep down, all she longed for was for him to save her from herself. With every clash of steel, her heart cried out for it to end. She swung the sword with enough strength to push him back, bringing him to an abrupt stop, eyes steady on her. There was a pause, then an admission. It was impressive, yet truly a shame. Because had she been a knight, he would have gladly crossed blades with her. Dietrich moved closer and asked if they could join in, and he let him because this wasn't just a spar, it was an execution. With that, his team moved in beside him. The woman among them remarked it was creepy how strong she was, holding her ground against all four of them like this. Even if she was the so-called devil of the cursed blade, it was hard to believe. Dietrich scoffed, saying she was right in front of her. What was so hard to believe? Were her eyes busted or something? Teresa told him to shut up. Baron muttered what a waste to throw away talent like that on a cursed sword. She wanted to ask if he really thought she had chosen this. If she knew what it was, did he think she would have touched it like some lunatic? A fleeting memory of her family and her own smiling face flashed across her mind. Urien held her gaze for a moment, and for the first time, someone felt for her something that wasn't fear or hatred, but faint sympathy. A gaze not at the cursed demo, not at the monster with the blade, but at her still trapped inside. It crossed her mind whether he knew that she never wanted any of this. His eyes widened when she realized she was crying. Dietrich remarked that thing was just a body swinging a cursed sword. No way she was still in there. He pointed out nobody survived possession by a cursed blade. They were bound to lose their minds completely. However, Urien knew she was still in there, fighting her will against the sword. Baron pointed out no one could overcome a cursed sword, and even if there was a chance, she had wiped too many territories and killed too many people. Some of that blood was still on them. Dietrich countered that it was because the Empire idiots thought they could handle her themselves. His hand begins to glow with a soft, golden light, and he declares that no one can be punished for a crime they never intended to commit. Dietrich steps forward threateningly, eyes blazing with disbelief. He usually respects the commander's knightly idealism, but not this time. Teresa immediately holds up her hand, blocking him, demanding to know exactly what the commander is trying to do. Without hesitation, the commander lifts her fragile body into his arms and replies that he's giving her a chance. After that, she was imprisoned in the underground cells of the Azure Knights. The restraints that bound her body suppressed the power of the cursed sword. Every day she was forced to face her unconscious self. She fought the cursed sword through countless hours and suffered as many defeats and failures. Even enduring those harsh battles, she would imagine what it would be like after winning. Once she got her body back, the first thing she wanted to do was wash off this filth and sleep in a soft bed. Then the next day, with her pink hair restored, she will tidy her hair and go back to the way she was. The thoughts continued. He asked, still the same. The knight guarding her replied there were no issues today either. Urien stood before her. She wanted to greet the one who gave her a second chance with a smile. She wanted to repay those trusting blue eyes and atone for the sins she committed. Believing that a miraculous day like that would come, she endured it all. But that day of miracles never came for her, starting with the guard who fell for the cursed sword's trick and opened the cell door. Baron, the master of Siliciosa, was killed by the sword while helping the last of the people escape. Teresa, the master of Dimonchiosa, held out until her last breath, buying time. And Dietrich, who tried to escape to alert the outside, couldn't escape the cursed sword either. Finally Urian, who returned from a mission, faced the sword in the ruined Azinka Plaza. The reunion she longed for through endless time came in the form she dreaded most. But even Urian, known for his unmatched skill, couldn't defeat the cursed sword now grown strong through countless slaughters. The gaze that once believed in and watched over her was gone for good, and so only hatred for the cursed sword remained inside her. From that moment, 2 years passed, and it had been 6 years since she was tainted by the sword. She regained her body in a small fishing village. Skin once blackened, now clear again. Hair returned to its original color, a body that moved at her will. She cried out, thrashing and screaming because it was too damn late. What was she supposed to do now? She had killed, destroyed everything. And now where was she even supposed to return to? That is when she heard the cursed sword's voice. With an air of nonchalance, she told her to scream all she wanted like that would break her. She looked around with wide eyes, blurting, "Who's there?" The reply came calmly, Vertigiosa. The very sword in her hands. The fact that she could hear his voice meant that she had earned the right to become her second master. He congratulated her on becoming his new master. She snapped, eyes blazing at the audacity of his congratulation. Because of him, she had no one left beside her. Not her friends, not her family, and not even the one who believed in her. However, he said it wasn't him, that the malice and bloodlust belonged to the human part buried inside him. But she wasn't ready to hear it. She screamed at him to shut up. No matter how much he insisted, she didn't want to hear a word. Then, suddenly, he blurted out that there was a way she could go back. She froze, eyes widening. What did he just say? She could bring back everyone she killed? He corrected, not bring back but go back in time. That was what the last master said after awakening him. He explained it wasn't easy, but she screamed at him to tell her how. He asked her if she knew about the legend of Geosis. If she possessed all 10 Geosis created by humans, she could borrow the power of the divine sword. Among them there was one forged from time itself, the Kairos Geosa. She only had one chance to turn back time. She couldn't believe his words and thought it would be possible that the cursed sword was lying. But if there was even the slightest chance, she wanted to bring everyone she killed with her own hands. That day she clung to a threadbare hope and made a decision. She would no longer wait for a miracle. She would seize it with her own hands. And then at last she reached the place where miracles dwelled. Long ago, there was a blacksmith who dared to challenge the gods. To that arrogant blacksmith, God granted the power to forge a sword from the formless like night and day, and said he has given him the power equal to his, with it forged the ultimate sword. This is the trial he bestowed upon him. The blacksmith forged 10 swords over the span of 100 years. Upon seeing them, the god instantly created 2 swords on the spot. These 2 swords were more beautiful and powerful than all 10 of the blacksmiths combined. Only then did the blacksmith realize the arrogance of his ways. The god forgave him and brought him to the divine realm. Thus, the 12 swords left behind in the world came to be known by the ancient word for trial. Among them was a divine sword forged from time itself. As she stood before Kyora's Gosa, she admitted it took her 9 years to get here. She requested him to take her back to a time when no one had died by her hand. He asked her why she wished to return to the past. She said it was because she wanted to bring back the people she had killed. But he pressed further, if she had killed them with her own hands, why did she want to revive them? Her voice rose into a scream, but she caught herself, steadied her tone and said she had never wanted to kill them in the first place. There was a pause, then he said very well and asked her what came next. She stood still, struck by the weight of his words. In a world where everyone was alive, what did she intend to do? She had never thought that far. All she ever wanted was to undo what she had ruined with her own hands. She hadn't even considered what came after. She just wanted to bring them all back. Hesitantly, she said she only wished to live a normal life. She admitted that, as she was now, she couldn't even fall asleep in peace, couldn't remember the last time she laughed, and that only the shell of her remained alive. But if she could turn back time and change things, if she could return to what she once was, then she too wanted to be happy. Her eyes filled with tears as she said it. He said very well. Then the earth trembled beneath her feet, and he declared he would lend her his power because she was a worthy human, but warned there would be no second chance, so she must do her best to find happiness. And when she opened her eyes, she was back in the past. A familiar ceiling met her gaze. Her pink hair had returned, her arms and legs moved at her will, her body was hers again. Without wasting a second, she ran into the garden and threw herself into her brother's arms. Her family had been returned to her. Her brother stood frozen in shock as she clung to him, sobbing. March 17th, year 1629 of the divine calendar. She had returned to the day she first held the cursed sword. And now she carried a new resolve beyond despair. Later, as the maid dressed her, she remarked that her lady had startled her earlier that morning. If she had been awake, she could have simply called for her. Why had she been wandering around like that? It was highly improper. She only giggled in response and offered a soft apology to Nora. But then Nora frowned, noting that she'd been up quite early. Was she feeling unwell? She reminded her that she hadn't been able to sleep, not even at dawn. That made Ekanesha pause. She turned, confused. Had she called for her at dawn? Nora said of course couldn't she remember? She had asked her to bring her warm milk because she couldn't sleep. A chill crept down her spine. It was the exact same situation as the one from when she had held the sword. That dawn, Nora didn't return from the kitchen, so she went there herself. And what she faced wasn't the loyal and gentle Nora she knew, but Nora who had been consumed by the cursed sword and turned into a demon. She did not remember how she managed to avoid that attack, but when she came to, the cursed sword that Nora had dropped was lying in front of her, and she had no choice but to pick up the sword to survive. She questioned Nora if she noticed anything strange back then. Nora admitted there was an unfamiliar empty package in the kitchen. Ekanesha blurted out if she still had it. Nora replied she kept it because she didn't know where it came from and was going to give it to the butler. She told her she would take care of it, so she should give it to her. The label was the same length as the cursed sword. She realized someone must have deliberately placed it in the kitchen. But since the cursed crystal that was supposed to be inside was missing, the past where Nora held the crystal has changed. She slammed the label on the table and demanded she change time, so why was he still with her? The cursed sword replied because Bardara Giosa still remained in her hand. Their conversation is interrupted when Nora asks her if she will be having breakfast in the dining hall. She needs to inform the kitchen in advance. She asks with whom? Nora looks at her curiously and says she is acting rather strangely today. Naturally, she is going to eat with the master, the madam, and the young lord. At the dining table, the whole family sits together for breakfast. Her father mentions casually, almost in passing, that Nicole is arriving tomorrow. Her brother's face lights up at the news. Finally, Nicole is getting leave from the Mage Tower. Excited, he says he will ask him to play once he gets here. Their mother, however, quickly redirects his enthusiasm, reminding him that before he thinks about that, he needs to dry his hair properly. After washing, she gently scolds he should make sure to dry off completely before coming to the dining hall. Then her father's gaze shifts to her, his voice lowering as he points out that she hasn't touched her food at all. Her brother notices it too. She hasn't taken a single bite. She tries to respond, to brush it off, but the words catch in her throat. In that moment, flashes of the past of killing them all rush to her mind. She admits she has missed them so much, and now, sitting with them all, it finally feels real. Her brother laughs softly, teasing that they just saw each other yesterday. It's like his sister is still dreaming. Her mother asks her if she had a bad dream, studying her with concerned eyes. A tear escapes her eyes. She gently wipes it and laughs widely, saying she must have had a bad dream. This is the life she must protect with all her strength. Later, back in her room, she checks her mana. It is still low since it was just formed, but at least the mana core is properly established. Mana core is a reservoir of mana within the body, created only by Knights of Swordmaster level. In her past life, having a mana core was a given, so she overlooked the fact that her current body didn't have one. Besides, she pushed herself too hard in this state. No wonder she got exhausted so quickly. She summons the sword into her hand, its form rising with a proud gleam. But then within it groans dramatically about being awakened so roughly, complaining that it hurts and she should have been more gentle. She demands to know why he is still stuck to her. He counters, "Isn't that obvious?" Even though time reversed, her soul remained intact. He declares he is engraved into her soul as a Geo. She stills. He explains the reason she still remembers everything is because she is a Gyoza owner. She asks so if she gets rid of him she would lose her memories. He says exactly. A moment later, she asks what of the other knights. He replies she never awakened the consciousness of the other knights. Only by awakening it can she truly become their master. And he is the only sword whose consciousness she has awakened. Without him, she would go back to being the clueless lady she once was. She realizes that means she could accidentally devour him again. Gritting her teeth in frustration, she thinks Vardarjosa is the blade of slaughter. Losing her memories and having her consciousness stripped away again isn't the only risk. If she lets her guard down, that sword will consume her and she will commit slaughter once more. If she cannot discard this cursed sword, then achieving her happy life will be impossible. The Gyoza Hall, where all discovered swords remain sealed. Deep within the Azure Knights, that place allows one to acquire new knights and seal away the cursed sword. There are only 3 ways to enter. First, discovering and securing an unidentified Gyoza. Second, the death or retirement of a previous Gyoza owner and relinquishing their knight. Lastly, granting an official Knight of the Azure Order the right to choose a Gyoza. She announces to the staff that she will be leading for Azenka, instructing them to go ahead while an employee will handle transporting her luggage separately to the accommodation. Finally, she asks them to send her regards to her parents. Nora, clearly alarmed, calls after her asking if it is really okay to leave so abruptly. Ekanesha answers calmly that it's fine for now, she had made the necessary preparation. A few days before her departure to Azinka, Nicole had echoed back in disbelief that Ekanesha wanted her to investigate the origin of the demonic sword while she was away. Nicole had just returned from her vacation at the Magic Tower when Ekanesha contacted her, wasting no time. She reminded her that she had already told her she was now the owner of the demonic sword and that it had been placed there by someone from the current count's family. Ekanesha had finished the thought for her, confirming she was asking for help during her time in Azinka and requesting her to protect her family and everyone in the count's household. Nicole had stared at her, clearly shaken, and asked if she truly grasped how serious the situation was. There was no guarantee she wouldn't be controlled by the sword again. What exactly was she planning to do in Azinka? It wasn't like she could go to the Azure Sky Knights and tell them she was the sword's owner, could she? Ekanesha had admitted that she hadn't even told her family and had no intention of doing so. Nicole was the only one she was telling. At that, Nicole had challenged her, demanding to know where that level of trust even came from. Was it simply because she was a mage sponsored by her family? She responded that it wasn't because of that. Then, her expression shifted like she had suddenly drifted into thought. A memory surfaced, her and her brother fighting and Nicole's reaching out to pull them apart. But that wasn't all. The only one who had ever managed to wound the demonic sword was her. However, she cannot talk about it. Instead, she says she's the only one she can trust. Nicole crosses her arms, and after giving her a measured look, she finally says she will trust her words. But the question is, how is she going to get into the Azure Sky Knights? It is a place where geniuses who have practiced swordsmanship their whole lives gather. She tells her not to worry about it, then suddenly declares she's more of a genius than they are. Later at the academy, she eats in silence while the other cadets stare at her. They comment, who does she think she is, walking around the nights like that? Is she insane? As she cuts into her steak, she reflects that even if she's reaping the consequences of her own actions, it's a bit uncomfortable to be like this during mealtimes. She thinks maybe she should just become a master at a year early, at 22. Just then, a girl approaches her and asks if she's Ekanesha. She introduces herself as Alice Winterbell, her assigned roommate. Apologizing for interrupting dinner, Alice asks if they can talk for a moment. She brings up the number of belongings in their room, wondering why there are so many. Ekanesha asks if she's referring to her clothes and accessories. Even she silently admits she thought it was a bit too much. Alice comments bluntly that a cadet training to become a knight wouldn't need that many clothes, but she asserts she needs them, and she has no intention of wearing drab cadet uniforms. Alice flushes with anger at the comment because that is exactly what she is wearing. Ekanesha then points out that the regulations don't say anything about not wearing dresses. There is no such thing as unknightly behavior. She asks her what does she consider as knightly. Alice replies they uphold chivalry, knowing honor, being frugal, respecting the weak, revering martial arts like Teresa von Fran Almart. Ekanesha points out there's nothing in chivalry that says they cannot adorn themselves. But Alice says it is naturally an extravagant vanity. She counters these are the things she has always used, so wouldn't buying knightly clothes on purpose be even more extravagant? At a loss for words, Alice finally burst out, demanding how can she wield a sword in such uncomfortable attire. But she claims it's not uncomfortable for her, despite it being actually uncomfortable. Alice trembles with frustration, her expression screaming, how is this person the top student? She thinks she's so obvious it's endearing and cute, but she needs to put her in her place a bit. It will be annoying if she keeps pointing things out every time. Without warning, she offers to spar in her current state if she really doesn't believe her. Alice asks if she's trying to say she can handle her even in a dress. Is that it? She counters she wasn't thinking such rude thoughts, she just has confidence in her ability to defeat her. Her patience finally breaks and she formally demands a duel. Her condition, if she wins, Ekanesha must apologize for her insulting words and actions just now. Raising her voice slightly, she adds that Ekanesha must also promise never to wear such extravagant clothes again. Ekanesha smirks. Accepted, then adds her own condition, if she wins Alice is never to interfere with her again. She declares the duel will take place tonight at the training ground behind the dormitory. Just then, a male cadet steps forward, intrigued. He says hearing about this makes it sound interesting. If it is alright with the both of them, he questions would it be okay for him, the candidate representative, to be the witness? Ekanesha asks him who is he. He introduces himself as Ian Peltro, 3rd year. Since he is the student representative, he thinks he qualifies perfectly as a witness. Alice formally greets him since he is a senior. He waves his hands, telling her not to be formal and asks if he interrupted something between those two. She replies not at all and thanks him for volunteering to be their witness. Ian says then they should meet this evening at the training ground behind the girls' dormitory. Alice then turns to Rose, dropping all formality. Ekanesha thinks she stepped in thinking it might be better to settle things in one go. Hopefully this won't lead to something more tiring. Out of nowhere, the cursed voice cuts in, asking if it is a duel. Isn't she going to kill them? He points out it has been way too long since he last shed blood and wants to kill them. She curses him and wants him to shut up already. Ian suddenly remarks just as the rumor says she's impressive from day one. He takes a seat right in front of her. She wonders silently, hasn't he left yet? Then, without hesitation, she asks him directly, does he need something from her? Ian replies casually, nothing major. Would she consider joining their club? She looks puzzled, and he quickly judges from her expression that she hasn't heard of it. He adds she is a freshman, so it is understandable. Some cadets arrive here not knowing much, just like her. He informs her there are no regular classes or exams in the academy, instead they have a ranking system. Every 3 months, all cadets compete in a ranking match to determine their positions, and if she wants to change her rank in between, she can personally challenge someone to a duel and climb by winning. She admits she has heard of that. She reminds herself rankings are the core of the Azenka Military Academy. Cadets of the Azena Military Academy serve as temporary squires through the ranking matches. A squire in this case refers to an assistant to a formal knight. Unlike ordinary servants, they manage weapons, armor, and horses and assist in training and battles. And if they are lucky, they might even receive some swordsmanship advice during that time. Unless a knight designates a specific square, cadets are assigned to knights based on their rank determined by the ranking matches. He tells her to become the temporary squire of a skilled knight. Her rank needs to be high. That's why cadets are always desperate to prepare for the ranking matches, but it is hard to improve the skills on their own. They need to spar after all, and that is the reason clubs exist. They can train with others and sometimes even learn under a mentor. Usually students decide which club to join before even enrolling. She asks him, is that mandatory? Ian admits it is not required, but many will try to recruit her. She entered as the top student, and this time she's quite special, so there is going to be fierce competition to bring her in. She questions, beside being the top student, is there any other special reason? He simply replies she will understand when she sees this, handing her a letter that officially names her a squire. Everyone watching is stunned. This is the first time a freshman has been granted such a designation. Whispers ripple through the crowd, questioning who could be foolish enough to appoint a freshman as a squire. Sitting there, she is struck with disbelief, questioning if all Gyoza owners retain their memories. But she tells herself, if that were true, they would have either tried to kill her or arrest her. She wonders who is it. She was determined not to ever get involved with a formal knight. Clutching her dress, she blurts out, who is he? The reply comes instantly. He is Urian de Harden Kyrier. The name sends a shock through her. He lets her know the probation period is 1 month. Her official assignment will come after that. During the probation period, he will conduct her preliminary training. He instructs her to be at the 4th training ground in the east wing of the main building by 9 a.m. tomorrow. He then turns and with a casual wave he adds that he will see her later that evening at the salmon training ground and then walks away. But she remains seated, caught in a quiet dilemma, shocked that Urian is the one who designated her as his squire. Was it because she had the highest entrance score, or was she too extreme in the second test? Or could it be that he remembers? If that is the case, she doesn't understand why. She betrayed the opportunity and trust he gave her. She ruined everything. She wanted to see him again, but she never intended to meet him again. A squire means now she has to stay by Urian's side again. She finally arrives at the training ground for the duel. Ian and Alice are already there waiting. They greet her and tell her there's no need to delay, they will begin immediately. Since Alice was the one who issued the challenge, she will take the first move. The two girls take their positions, facing each other. Ian speaks with calm authority, may the victor show mercy and grace, and may the loser accept defeat with humility. With that, he signals them to begin. Alice raises her sword. When Ekanesha bows before the match, Alice is momentarily taken aback by the gesture. The crowd watching murmurs, some wondering if Ekanesha thinks she's at a ballroom. To Alice, it's incomprehensible. How could someone like her be the top student? She refuses to accept it. Gritting her teeth, she lifts her sword and charges forward, striking the first blow. Echinacea dodges her sword again. Alice notices that she is just dodging absent-mindedly. She isn't attacking and her attacks aren't landing either. She becomes annoyed and remarks that she isn't focusing on the match, is she? Echinacea stares at her thinking that she should have ended this quickly, but her mind was elsewhere. She supposed apologizing now would just be an insult. In that case, she thinks there is no choice but to end it quickly and strikes her. She is left taken aback, wondering when did she get this close. She ponders that even if it was a basic thrust, it would have been hard to react to it, noticing that she blocked it with textbook precision like something straight out of a fencing manual. She looks at her, knowing that the more she watches, the more she sees her swordsmanship is as honest as her personality. Ekanesha guesses Alice will probably ride along her blade and close the distance. That's exactly what happens, proving she was right. She thinks that since she is so by the book, it's obvious what her next move will be, but she pulls a move of her own, leaving Alice shocked. The sword flies from her hand and lands upright in the ground. With a blade now at her neck, she quickly admits defeat and she won't interfere with her anymore. Ekanesha admits to her she was the one who was rude. She is aware that it wasn't a duel, as she wasn't focusing at all. Ian tells them both of them did a good job and he is glad no one got hurt. Alice thanks him for watching and asks if she could excuse himself first. He responds of course and informs her that since this duel took place before the ranking matches, it won't affect her standings. Alice leaves and Ian turns to her and says Ekanesha that 3 times in total, that's how many times she has acted as the commander's temporary squire. He says that commander isn't someone who makes impulsive decisions, that's why it was easy to follow his lead. He's rational, respects the law, the epitome of a sacred swords master, but this time he doesn't know. He asks her why does she think he chose her as his squire. Was it because she is skilled, or does she perhaps have some connection to him? She responds that she doesn't know why he chose her either. He tells her that's fair and puts his arm on her shoulder, telling her to not forget about 9 a.m. tomorrow, and calls her Cadet Echinacea. He smirks at her and she finds it annoying, making her remember that 3 years from now, on the day Azenka was devastated by the demon sword, the Ian Peltro she met was a knight of Azenka. The one in her family wasn't smiling kindly. He had shown his true vile nature to buy time to escape. He sent everyone, children, the elderly, the powerless, straight towards the cursed sword's path. And then he begged to be saved and that he'd do anything, and he knew there were a lot of people on the other side, and he is a knight, and if he is spared he get them for her, but she killed him. She tells him she'll see him tomorrow then. She finds it disgusting that this kind of guy becomes a knight 3 years from now. Vertigiosa tells her that she was rushing off and that this isn't even the main street. Ekanesha responds, seeing that guy put her in such a foul mood she had to come here. He asks her if she plans to solve things by killing everyone like before. She tells him to shut up already, as that isn't what she wanted. She wanted buildings still standing and people living happily. The peaceful scenery of Azenka. She knows she really wanted to see that. He finds it boring. Suddenly, someone calls out to her. She turns toward the voice and freezes. Urian is standing there. Their eyes lock, both filled with unmistakable shock. He asks her if she knows who he is. She realizes that she stared at him thinking he might remember her, which was careless. She apologizes to him, telling him that she doesn't recognize him. She asks him if he knows her. He tells her that she knows who he is. Surely she does. He questions, haven't she seen him before? She seems taken aback, wondering if he remembers her. She thinks that he says they've met, but when? She wonders if he remembers everything, then what should she do? He tells her it was the birthday celebration last year. She asks if he saw her at the birthday celebration. He admits he didn't know who she was, but he does remember seeing her. He asks her if she didn't see him too. She remembers that they didn't talk or even made eye contact back then. She mentions that he is the commander and offers an apology for not realizing it sooner. He requests her to not call him commander but just call him by his name. He finally reveals his name is Urian. She still calls him commander again, stating that she is just a cadet, so how dare she calls him by his nickname. After a brief pause, he shifts the topic and asks why did she apply to the academy. She wonders if he is asking because of her appearance. She tells him she applied because she wishes to become a knight. He then questions why does she want to become a knight. She seems a bit nervous but then tells him it's because she likes swords. He suddenly takes her hand and slowly repeats, asking if she likes swords. He remarks that her hands don't look like the hands of someone who wields a sword. She stares at him in surprise. He goes on, saying he will ask again why does she want to become a knight. She flinches and pulls her hand back, her thoughts spiraling. Of all things, it had to be her right hand. She thought he would notice. She could have easily made up a reason for why she became a knight, but with him, she didn't want to lie. She admits to him because she wants to be happy. It might sound strange, but she is being honest. He stills in surprise. At least to those blue eyes that always believed in her, she didn't want to lie about this reason. She then asks him what brought him here. He counters, what about her? What is she doing all the way here on her first day? She ponders that she came to check the fountain, which was totally fine, but she cannot say it out loud. She mentions that she was just taking a walk and ended up here. He tells her it's the same for him. He came here for a walk too. He smiles at her, making her wonder if he was always someone who smiled this often. She thinks, isn't it too much of a coincidence? Coming to the very place where he was killed on the very day he named Emil Skyer as his killer. She wonders if it could be that he actually does remember. She mentions that she heard he named her a spy. She thinks if that isn't it, she needs to understand his intention and asks him why did he name her a spy. He asks her if he may request a sparring match. He tells her not now but whenever she is ready. She knows she is the cadet and she should be begging for the chance, yet he is the one who is asking. He gently covers her with a dark cloak, his hands lingering on her shoulders, stating that as for why he named her a spy he'll answer after they have crossed paths. He tells her that the night is chilly so she should cut the walk short. Vertigiosa questions what is going on in that guy's head that Langiosa brat picked a weird master. She asks him to tell her about it as she has not gotten any clue either. The next morning, she whispers maybe he is trying to keep her close to monitor her. Vertigiosa questions what nonsense is she spouting this early in the morning. She mentions that she thinks she figured out why Urian named her. He wants to confirm whether she is really the devil of the demon sword. He asks her if she means that he made her a spy to watch her. She knows if not there'd be no reason for him to keep her near, as if he becomes certain that she is the devil at the very least he won't be smiling at her like yesterday. Alice steps in and calls out to her, stating that she said she wouldn't interfere, but did she leave this on the ground to show it off? She tells her there isn't any need for this, everyone knows she is the commander's squire now. And then she leaves. She thinks it must be super annoying for her, but she is keeping it together. She is aware that there is nothing more she can do and it's time to focus on what she can do. Meanwhile, she is welcomed and she greets Ian, however even his smile pisses her off. He introduces her to a guy who is a third-year cadet, Brett Von Poole, who will be helping with her preliminary training in his place today. That guy tells her she is quite pretty. He grabs her shoulder and tells her that she will be an official squire the day after tomorrow, so there isn't much time left, but she shouldn't worry as he'll teach her well. He then offers to start the class now that the student representative has left. He declares first she will be his squire for the day and she will attend to him. She responds with a polite, "Yes, senior," but he cuts her off, demanding that she call him Lord. He claims that is the most basic rule. A smirk curls on his lips as he adds that he will be giving her specially tailored training. He then instructs her to start by massaging his legs. She points out, isn't this supposed to be squire training? He tells her not to pretend she doesn't know while squishing her skirt around. He winks at her and says she's just trying to snag a knight for marriage, isn't she? He can see right through her. He adds her other grades were mediocre, but she became the top student because her performance in the second test, sparring with the apprentice knight, was overwhelming, claiming the rumors are flying among the students. They are wondering how on earth she managed to take down the apprentice knight. She lets out a sigh and says those rumors have spread in just one day? She doesn't even know where to start correcting this. He comments causally it is quite a remarkable skill. Even seducing the commander was impressive. Her eyes sharpen at his comment. Bread continues now that she is a squire, she can officially serve him. It must be getting steamy every day. She thinks to herself, back when she was gathering the Giosa, she thought she heard all the insults possible in the mercenary corps, but this is just too vulgar. It's not lost on her that he also dared to drag Yuri into it. Suddenly, the cursed voice speaks, noting that she is irritated. He urges her to use him, feeding on her fury. He goads her further, saying that if she's just going to stand there and take such insults, he doesn't want her holding back. They should just kill them. She remarks that his words are a bit harsh. He retorts that she ought to first learn how to respect her seniors, or perhaps that willful of hers only works on higher-ups. Without warning, she kicks him square in the shin. He doubles over, groaning in pain. With a calm, almost polite tone, she says his words made her feel dirty. Inwardly, she thinks that just as the cursed sword said, there was no need to hold back this time. And if she was going to play the part of the eccentric genius, she should act out a bit. Verdingiosa groans in exasperation, grumbling that what he actually said was to kill him without hesitation. She tells him she doesn't know why she was chosen as a squire, but she can show him how she took down the apprentice knight. This time, she delivers a kick on his back. Sprawled on the ground, he grits out to get off him right now. If she doesn't, he can report it to the commander and have her appointment cancelled. She dares him to go ahead and report, but he will have to tell him everything they just talked about too. Like serving at night, for instance. But he screams at her, demanding if she has any proof that he said those things. Just then a guy steps forward and casually offers to be a witness if she needs one. She turns to him and asks who he might be. With a grin, he replies that he's Baira Iloff from the third year and adds that he heard everything that guy said, so she can feel free to continue. She turns back and remarks that now they have a witness, mockingly calling him senior. Baira watches the scene unfold while munching on a snack. She then asks if he still thinks he did nothing wrong. He scoffs and says she's spouting nonsense, insisting he didn't do anything. She calmly says she thought as much. Then, suddenly releasing him, She tells him to get lost and watch his mouth from now on. He scrambles away, calling back that she'll regret this. Baira, still snacking, says she could have hit him more, but she simply replies that she felt this much of a warning was sufficient. But if he does this again, they will have to teach him a harsher lesson. From what Baira has heard, it seems he is receiving preliminary squire education. He asks why is she listening to such nonsense from that loser. Ekanesha questions, is that person famous? He states he belongs to the idiot club that thinks the military academy is their personal mansion. Plus that guy has probably never been recommended, so who on earth introduced him? She says it was the student representative, sir. She inwardly wonders how Ian could introduce such a troublemaker. Baira then starts eating his snack again and asks her why is she wearing a dress. She retorts, isn't cadet attire optional? He clarifies he is not criticizing, just curious. She states it is her preference. She likes dressing up. He questions whether leather gloves and shoes wouldn't be more comfortable, suggesting if it is also preference. She responds they don't match the dress and they are not pretty either. He asks if she likes pretty things, why carry such an ugly, cheap sword? She says she will simply toss it and buy a new one if it gets damaged. That earns a loud laugh. The more he sees, the more interesting he finds her. She offers a polite thanks for his kind view. Then, with a flash of purpose, he declares he will personally oversee her preliminary squire training. She straightens and bows formally, thinking that he might be a bit strange but still far preferable to the other guy. However, he adds the training won't begin today. Stepping back, he reintroduces himself, owner of Siliciosa, Vice Commander of the Celestial Knight Order and Squire to Sir Barentilius, third-year student, Baira Ilof. A warm smile follows as he informs her he plans to watch over her until she becomes a full-fledged knight. Her eyes widen, blood runs cold in her veins. She is doomed. Out of everyone, her senior turns out to be the squire of the Giosa owner she killed. At this point, she'd honestly prefer being pestered by the young master club. Baira then informs Ekanesha that he is the vice-captain's squire and that she must be the captain's squire. He then tells her that since she's now an official squire, they'll be working together, and it would be better if she trains herself to make life easier. But she has been so focused on Urian that she hasn't realized she's going to be introduced to the other knights. Baira says to her that, for now, she must simply follow him, he has something to show her. She replies with an okay, but deep down, she thinks that she'll need to dress more flashily, so flashy that no one will recognize her as herself. As he walks, the more she thinks about it, the more confusing it gets. Baira, with such a good build, isn't someone one can easily forget. But she doesn't quite remember that before her regression, she had killed him at Azenka. Baira notices that it's starting to rain. He tells Ekanesha to wait where she is, as he'll be coming back quickly from the dorm. Then she suddenly remembers that back then, when she was captured and thrown underground by the Giosa, whenever a storm hit, the guards would talk about it. They used to ask each other if the vice president had visited the cemetery again today. They'd say that the weather seemed like night because of it. This always reminded her of that event. After all, it has already been 3 years, and the damage back then had been enormous. Even the vice-captain's squire had died that day during the year's monster subjugation. Baira had died, so she thinks that it seems like she does know what the future holds. She thinks that she will change what she can, and maybe it's a tip that the future is not written in stone. She finally reaches back while thinking that, and wonders, if she can save him from dying, then she must. She thinks that the Giosa men are close to him, must have known exactly what happened, and if she can, she will be able to find out who remembers what. Baira gives her today's homework. It's the Squire Manual, full of advice from upper-class members. He adds that she should keep it, and once she's done, she can pass it on to her juniors. He then says he'll be heading back to his lord to thank him. She asks him if he thinks she'll be able to join the spring monster subjugation. Baira clearly says that this is not going to happen. After all, she is still a probationary squire, and there is no way they would take a rookie. She begs him, asking if there's really no way. Baira finds her quite eager about this and wonders if she is that desperate to gain experience. To this, she says that it's only natural for someone who wields a sword. He then says that if she's that determined, she can place in the top 3 in the upcoming freshman ranking match. The Chanshan subjugation mission is reconnaissance in name only. It's basically real combat. But even freshmen, if they rank in the top 3, get a shot to join. He asks her if she feels confident right now, to which she replies not at all. But she says she's looking forward to fighting alongside him in the upcoming spring subjugation. Baira says to her that he'll be looking forward to it too, all smiling. He then says that he'll be checking her homework tomorrow, so she better do it properly. Val says to her that she herself said she's not going to aim for a high rank, and now she's acting like she's aiming for 3rd. But Ekanesha is like that. She is going to aim for 1st place. After all, she is already at the squire level, so there is no point in holding back. And she really needs to do this. She needs to prove what she is made of and to shut their mouths. Val, as usual, says to her that if she's that ambitious and hasty about it, she might just kill them. But she says to him that she doesn't want to be a murderer. Val says that she already is one, so she's still one. But Ekanesha thinks that he just won't understand. Every Gyoza has a unique ability, and the first time she learned about the sword demon's power was after awakening its consciousness when she was searching for information about the Gyoza. She had gone to the back alley informant she had met. They used to say things about Urien that he was the worst captain in history, as he had fallen for the demon and girl. The whole empire was wiped out. And of course, she had been full of herself, as people used to hype him up so much. She thinks that she was totally blind because of Craftsman, who was saying bad things about him. Ekanesha really lost it all. The demon sword, when its master lets their guard down, loses control of their mind or feels killing intent toward humans. It uses this malice to find and execute the perfect killing path. She thinks that if this is how powerful it is, she'd rather not think about it. Val says to her that the unsettled bloodlust is still in her. After all, it's being suggested that she last killed someone as a squire. It would be better if she finds someone worth killing, or it will get bad. But she shouts that this time, she will be the one to decide. Winterbell informs Ekanesha that a telegram has arrived for her and says she has left it in her desk. Ekanesha thanks her, but before she can respond further, Winterbell leaves, making Ekanesha think that she's cold, just as expected. She assumes one telegram is from her home, and the other, from Nicole, concerns an unconfirmed pursuit. The tail of a white look has been spotted. She knows that the white silk look is an emblem used by the imperial family of the Kyrier lineage, which means that Kyrier Kali is somehow connected with the cursed sword that was in Rose. A few days later, Byra tells her that he's heard she's become the captain's squire, and the fact that people who think she did this through seduction is just some rumor that will die down in a few days, but he adds that she should use this time to focus on the squire's main duty, taking care of the lord's horse. He also adds that Sylphid likes gentle brushing, so she should be careful. He says that it will be nice if she starts taking care of them from the beginning, and among the captain's horses, Sylphid is rather gentle. She asks him if he's also taken care of Sylphid before, to which he tells her that he once served the captain temporarily. He tells her that her clothes are getting dirty, to which she says it's fine. Byra can't help but say that the more he gets to know her, the more he thinks she's different from what she seems. Dressed up like someone who wouldn't step a single foot in the stables, here she is unbothered even as her clothes get dirted. Byra comments that it seems like she really does like to get dressed up. She then asks him if she can crush the mane straight, to which he replies that she'll first need to untangle it with her fingers, otherwise it will break. He remains unable to believe that she isn't even startled by having to do that too. After all, with such a delicate appearance, she probably wouldn't even blink at a sea of blood. He thinks, and the more he looks at her, the more interesting she becomes to him. Ekanesha asks him if she could handle the brushing part herself, and he agrees. Finally, Urien steps in, saying to Byra that the Baron is looking for him. Byra asks Urien if he's here to ride Sylphid. Urien says yes and wonders if Byra was in between Squire Irene's training. Byra says that they were, but adds that they will go now. Urien, with authority, commands him again, reminding him that the Baron is looking for him. Byra is utterly confused, but he leaves. As he does, he thinks that Ekanesha was acting like she's afraid of nothing, but he's sure he saw her getting terrified after hearing that Urien was here. Now, it's the two of them. Urien speaks first, saying that if the sparring quest is burdensome, she can leave it. She says that it wasn't burdensome, just undeserved. She adds that she's glad for his cloak and apologizes for that, saying she'll return it to him soon. He comes, handing her the crushed sash, saying it seemed like it was uncomfortable after all. Deep down, she thinks that of course it was. She then asks him if she can ask something. She wonders if he remembers her, and if he hates her for that. She says to him out loud that he told her he saw her during last year's birthday. She wonders if he's testing her or what, because her head is full of thoughts. Even though she's never spoken to him directly, she wonders how did he know? Who is she to him? Urien says that he simply noticed. She points out if it's because of her hair color. Setting aside something from her hair, he says it was personal interest. She asks him what he means by that, but he insists that it's something to be discussed after the sparring conquest. She points out that he himself said she can give up if she doesn't feel like it. Urien says that he did say that, but again he really wants to spar with her. As he is leaving, Val thinks to himself, what if that guy actually knows something? But she scoffs at him for calling Urien that guy. He asks her to let him clash with Rangiosa, that way he'll be able to talk with him or they can talk directly. But Ekanesha is like, no, it'll be better if he doesn't talk. Urian gives people headaches, but she says that the monster subjugation is just around the corner, and they'll see how Urian acts if something happens to Bayara. After all, he will never let Bayara die like this. As she is thinking about this, a cheerful girl opens the door, complimenting Ekanesha's dress and, on the basis of that, asks her to join their club. It is Fatima's second year who approaches Ekanesha and asks her to join the Wisdom Club. Ekanesha knows the other clubs didn't come near her after hearing the rumors about her, but still, Fatima is the one trying to recruit her. As Ekanesha walks away, she tells Fatima that she's not going to join any club, so it would be better if Fatima stopped trying to recruit her. After all, she's not going to get accepted by any club. Fatima jumps in front of her and declares that they're all fools. After all, the vice president of her club is screaming that Ekanesha is a once-in-a-lifetime type of talent, so of course, she wants her to join the club. Ekanesha thinks that maybe Fatima's persistence in recruiting her is genuine. But again, she also considers that it might be because Fatima isn't treating her based on the rumors. Or maybe her face is just Fatima's type, since Fatima seems to have a thing for pretty faces. Fatima adds that Ekanesha is one of the last on her recruitment list. Ekanesha asks who else is on the list. Fatima says the first was the owner of the Gyoza, then Mikhail, the younger brother of Sir Teresa. Ekanesha asks if she is the last one. Fatima says no, there is one more. After all, she is her roommate, Alice Winterbell. But Fatima adds that Alice seems to be in a slump. Seeing Ekanesha's reaction, Fatima comments that it's kind of weird. After all, even though they're from the same area, they call each other quite formally. She mentions that the 9th training ground is the place where Alice usually trains and suggests that Ekanesha should go see it for herself. After all, it might be that the duel between the two of them on the first day is the reason Alice is in a slump. This makes Ekanesha flinch. If that really is the reason, then Fatima leaves after saying that since she shared this information, if the two of them get back on good terms, she wants them both to join her club. Ekanesha decides to see for herself. She finds Alice in the forest, really working out a lot. But her sword isn't what it used to be. Once, Alice's blade had been swift, precise, refined, and elegant like a finely crafted sculpture. But now, her blade is filled with hesitation, her form crushed because of their duel. It's just a matter of erasing that afterimage she left in Alice's sword. But if it were that easy, Alice wouldn't be in a slump. Then again, meddling in someone's swordsmanship is also discourteous. Besides, who is a lady who hasn't even learned how to use a sword trying to advise her? So Alice must have taken it as an insult. It's right for her to leave. But Ekanesha thinks that she was the one who put that afterimage in the sword, so it's only right for her to interfere. Seeing that Ekanesha is here, Alice asks what she's doing. Ekanesha says she came to spar with her. Alice finds it quietly disrespectful for someone to suddenly step into someone's training, call them names, and then ask for a duel. Ekanesha responds that she didn't want to call her out, that's why she stepped in instead. But Alice tells herself that interrupting is even worse than calling someone out. After all, anyone who wields the sword without any law, how are they any better than ruffians? Ekanesha asks her if she's going to duel or not. She mocks Alice, saying she just wanted to warm up, and that she heard Alice has been working out a lot lately. So she wonders how weird is it that Alice still hasn't improved. Alice stands and tells herself that she's ready. She can come at her. Ekanesha thanks her and dares her sword toward Alice. Alice fully defends. Both swords crash, and Ekanesha says they should skip the pleasantry. Alice thinks that unlike before, Ekanesha's defending and attacks are overwhelming. No matter what, she immediately regains her balance with precision and speed. This time, she's really close, but Alice just barely dodges the attack. Alice is taken aback at this strike. This technique, flexibly riding the opponent's center, it's the same swordsmanship used in their duel a few days ago, but then she thinks that something might be different. The swordsmanship is similar, but it's completely on a different level. Elegant movements, sharp and swift attacks, even her movements are refined. Ekanesha is executing her sword style with great perfection. Ekanesha hits her again. This time, it makes Alice fall to the ground. She goes to move her sword, asking if Alice is going to continue. In her thoughts, she tells herself that she has done everything she could. After all, if Alice were like bread, she would have thrown tantrums or not even known what Ekanesha did. If she weren't serious about her sword, she would have been triggered or fallen into despair. And if she were petty, she would have been consumed by inferiority. Ekanesha tells her that if she doesn't want to, they can end it here, but Alice takes her sword from the ground and says it's fine, they can continue. Alice asks her what she did to her, but Ekanesha simply says they only sparred like a few cadets. Still, Alice can't understand why. After that, her swordsmanship completely changed. Ekanesha insists it has nothing to do with her and that it was all Alice's own hard work. During that match, Alice realizes something, and she had thought Ekanesha had no interest in the sword and didn't want to become a knight. She finally apologizes for judging her based solely on her appearance. After all, Ekanesha takes the task more seriously than anyone. Ekanesha sees that the look in Alice's eyes is completely different from before, a gaze filled with discovery, wonder, and awe, as if marveling at something new and brilliant. That look is filled with genuine respect, but Ekanesha, embarrassed, brushes it off, saying she really doesn't like the sword. And it's alright if she doesn't. Alice just smiles at this while Ekanesha tells her to walk a little farther away because she reeks of sweat. The two of them engage in some bickering later. In the dorm room, Val asks her why she didn't use any mana yesterday. She responds that Alice was being so serious that she got swept up in the moment. Val can't believe she's such an idiot and complains that now she's using her mana just for makeup. Ekanesha snaps at him to shut up. After all, her hand is more of a hassle right now. Val says he doesn't even have the strength to lift a finger, and she's whining about not being able to eat with her hand. She tells him to just shut up and fix her hair. Just like Val said, when she woke up this morning, she saw that breakfast was neatly set on the table, with no note attached, but it's clear it was from Alice. Right after yesterday's match, her kindness seems so pure. Ekanesha is not used to this, and honestly doesn't know how to handle it all. Now, Byra asks Ekanesha if she really thinks she'll be in the top 3 and if she's really confident slacking off like this. After all, people say not to underestimate the warnings. Ekanesha says she's not underestimating anything, it's just that she knows very well where her own skill level stands. Byra starts laughing, saying he likes her confidence. She's done grooming the main, so she asks him what's next. He says they'll stop here, after all, since tomorrow is the ranking match. Byra assures her it's fine, he has to see Urin in the afternoon. But then he suddenly remembers that last day when he went to Heron, the Baron said he never called him to come. Now he thinks maybe Urin misinterpreted it. She calls him out, but he brushes it off, saying it's nothing and that they should just clean things up quickly. As he leaves, he wishes her good luck for her match tomorrow. She then sits to rest and cool down a little. Val has seen her injured before but never hurt like this. She tells him she still needs to get used to this body. After all, it's not yet used to training. A senior comes up to her, saying he knew she'd be here, but she doesn't seem so thrilled to see him. She asks if there's something he wants from her. He says it's about the upcoming ranking match. Since they don't have official records, participants are drawn by lot, so he asks her to draw one. While she draws it, he mentions he's heard she's aiming for one of the top 3 positions because it would be a joke if she didn't, considering she's the captain's squire. She draws number 8. The senior tells her that's really bad luck, because her first opponent is Mikhail. She remembers it all too clearly. That moment when she lost control. He was the one she killed in Azanka. The blonde knight, hiding a boy in her arms who looked exactly like her. The image is still buried deep in her memory. Bread, her next opponent if she wins, will follow Mikhail. But now, she's wondering, was this bracket really random? She senses the presence of Urin. She thinks that if he were to fetch Sylphid, he should be at the stables. So why is he here, at the lake? She wonders if he's here to confirm whether she's really that cursed sword demon. If so, it makes sense that he's showing up here. After all. From his perspective, she's an unstable killer who might lash out at anyone. And if he really doesn't remember, she wonders if he was watching her just like this last year. She's sure that this isn't going to turn into some noble romance. The senior calls for her attention, asking if she's even listening. She asks what he was talking about. He tells her that Bread wants to apologize to her, and he thinks he's made a lot of mistakes and regrets them deeply. He adds that she can decline if she wants. Just because someone apologizes doesn't mean she has to forgive them. She thinks that he does try, that he does seem really sorry, but she's also sure he's scheming something. So she asks the senior where Bread wants to meet. He replies that Bread wants to meet her tonight. But before he can add more, Urin comes from behind, asking if there's been a fight between the cadets. The senior responds that it was just a little fight between Bread and Ekanesha, while Ekanesha and Urin stare at each other. Ekanesha reflects on the situation, convinced that whether it is Ian or Brad plotting something, there is no need to involve Urin. She keeps her thoughts to herself and makes it clear that the matter is personal, emphasizing that she and Urin are not close in that way. Turning her attention to Senior, she politely asks him to inform Brad that if he truly wishes to apologize, he should come and find her himself. The senior agrees without hesitation, assuring her that the message will be delivered. Urin, however, intervenes before the senior can fully withdraw, asking if there is anything else he needs to convey to Ekanesha. The question startles the senior slightly, especially when Urin adds that he has something to discuss with her and implies that the senior should leave if his task is complete. Understanding the cue, the senior quickly expresses his acknowledgement and takes his leave. Once they are alone, Yurin mentions that there may be something he needs to help her with. His tone carries a hint of uncertainty, which confuses Ekanesha. She apologizes, admitting that she did not quite understand what he meant. In response, he turns his face away, brushing it off as nothing important, and simply instructs her to follow him. As they walk, Ekanesha cannot help but wonder about his intention. All she truly desires at that moment is to retreat to her bed, bury herself beneath the covers, and sleep away her exhaustion. Yet, despite her weariness, she finds her attention drawn to him. His back appears strikingly beautiful, and his hair resembles threads of spun silver, catching her gaze no matter how many times she looks. After a short while, Yurin asks her to wait. Left standing there, Ekanesha begins to suspect that he must be running a high fever, given his unusual behavior. When he finally returns, he hands her something and advises her not to push herself too hard. He explains that on demanding days, only the Heavenly Knights are permitted to use antibiotic syrup, and even something as simple as ginger tea with honey is considered a luxury. What surprises her most is that even Baraha, who had been with her the entire morning, failed to notice that she was unwell, yet somehow, Yurin did. A strange feeling stirs within her, something she cannot quite define. It is both tangy and sweet, unfamiliar yet not unpleasant. A thought crosses her mind, hesitant but persistent. Could it be that he was worried about her? The possibility unsettles her in an unexpected way. At the same time, she quietly hopes that he does not recall their first meeting at her last birthday banquet, nor recognize that they had crossed paths again in Azanka. Time passes, and the atmosphere shifts as the freshman ranking match begins. A voice breaks through the murmur of the crowd, questioning why someone is staring so intently at the stands. The boy in question is Mikhail. Standing nearby, Theodore follows his gaze and remarks with curiosity, asking whether the girl he is watching is truly Hayes Round's opponent. He refers to the rumors surrounding her, how she supposedly gained her position unfairly, and then casually mocks the situation. Theodore continues, teasing Mikhail by calling the girl strikingly attractive, even going so far as to refer to Mikhail himself as Angel. The nickname immediately provokes irritation. Mikhail's temper flares, and he sharply warns Theodore not to call him that again, his tone carrying the weight of a genuine threat, as if questioning whether Theodore has a death wish. Regaining his composure, Mikhail asserts his determination. He declares that no matter who his opponent is, he will claim first place and secure a position in the monster subjugation team. In his mind, this victory is more than just a rank, it is a chance to change how his sister sees him. He no longer wants to be regarded as the frail youngest sibling who could not even lift a sword, but rather as a proud cadet of the Heavenly Knights. Theodore, however, does not take him seriously and continues to mock him. This only aggravates Mikhail further, and he snaps at him to stop. Theodore, still unconvinced, remarks that Mikhail seems overly confident and questions what will happen if he loses to that girl. Mikhail reacts immediately, dismissing the idea with disbelief. He cannot fathom losing to someone he assumes cheated her way into the ranking. Theodore counters by pointing out how suspicious it is for someone to be selected as a squire on the very first day. He suggests that this match will finally reveal her true abilities. Their attention is suddenly drawn elsewhere. They notice Alice Winterbell standing with her, engaged in conversation. This is unusual, as the two are known for not getting along. The sight of them speaking so casually raises questions about when their relationship might have changed. As Mikhail observes her more closely, he catches sight of her smiling. The expression catches him off guard, stirring an unfamiliar reaction within him. A faint blush spreads across his face, and in a moment of frustration, he strikes himself, as if trying to snap out of it. Theodore notices and asks what is wrong, but Mikhail dismisses it, insisting it is nothing. Internally, he scolds himself, reminding himself to focus. He questions what he is even thinking, attempting to push aside the distraction. Soon, the announcement echoes across. Cadet number 7, Mikhail, is called forward, followed by Cadet number 8, Ekanesha. A formal declaration is made: mercy and grace to the victor, acceptance and peace to the loser. The words carry a solemn weight, invoking honor and justice as the guiding principles of the duel. With that, the match begins. Mikhail prepares himself, relying on the swordsmanship of the Family A specialized style that emphasizes powerful counterattacks built upon solid defense, sacrificing speed for precision and strength. It is a technique of great prestige, one that even his sister, Teresa, mastered on her path to knighthood. Confident in his training, Mikhail believes victory is already within his grasp, yet his focus falters. His thoughts drift back to the image of a girl in a dress, and irritation builds within him at his own distraction. He blames her for disrupting his concentration, calling her slow and dawdling in his mind, urging her to hurry. Regardless of whether she is a commander's squire or holds any other title, he resolves to crush her with his superior swordsmanship. However, the moment the match truly begins, everything changes. In a swift and decisive movement, she closes the distance between them. Before Mikhail can properly react, she disarms him, sending his sword flying from his grasp with effortless precision. Silence falls for a brief moment before the result is announced. The winner is Ekanesha. The crowd erupts into whispers, confusion spreading rapidly. Spectators struggle to comprehend what they have just witnessed. Disbelief hangs in the air as they question whether Cadet Mikhail, so confident, so certain of his victory, has truly been defeated so easily. The outcome of the match leaves Mikhail seething. Overcome with frustration, he abruptly turns and begins to walk away. Theodore quickly calls out to him, concern evident as he asks whether he is all right. He tries to reassure him, saying that he is fine, that everyone makes mistakes sometimes, and that he should not be too hard on himself. But Mikhail immediately rejects that idea. He insists that it was not a mistake, repeating it with intensity, and then demands to know whether Theodore truly did not see it. This only confuses Theodore further, prompting him to ask what exactly Mikhail is referring to. Instead of explaining, Mikhail brushes him off, telling him that if he does not understand, then he should just remain clueless. In his view, people can only perceive as much as they already know. Theodore is left bewildered, wondering if Mikhail has lost his sanity and questioning what he is even talking about. Meanwhile, Mikhail's thoughts churn with agitation. He cannot shake the feeling that she is something abnormal, someone he has never encountered before. To him, she is a complete anomaly. After a brief pause, Mikhail regains a semblance of composure and states that they should go. Theodore asks where they're heading, but Mikhail clarifies that they need to keep watching. They cannot afford to miss a single one of her matches. Theodore, still skeptical, questions whether Mikhail feels no shame in losing to a girl. However, Mikhail dismisses the remark, stating that once the ranking battles are over, no one will feel ashamed of losing to her. Elsewhere, Ekanesha quietly leaves the arena. As she walks, her thoughts drift back to the duel. Mikhail's swordsmanship had felt familiar. It closely resembled the defensive style Teresa once used against her. The realization confirms what she already knows: he is her brother. Her memories, however, are fragmented. She cannot clearly recall the moment she killed Mikhail in the past. What lingers instead is the haunting sound of his sobbing, raw and animalistic, and the crushing sensation of her own pride shattering. The recollection leaves a bitter aftertaste, yet she finds solace in the present. Seeing them both alive again makes everything worthwhile. To her, turning back time has already justified itself. She reflects on how deeply Mikhail admires his sister, viewing her as a role model. Yet, from what she observed, the defensive swordsmanship he inherited does not truly suit him. For Teresa's sake, and perhaps for his own, she considers that if given the chance, she might offer him some guidance. At that moment, Alice approaches and calls out to her, praising her performance. She notes that Ekanesha fought very differently compared to when they last sparred. Ekanesha responds by reminding her that she had already asked her to drop the honorifics. Alice hesitates, admitting that she is not quite ready to do that yet. This prompts Ekanesha to question whether such a thing truly requires preparation. Their exchange soon shifts to the upcoming match. Ekanesha is already aware that the second bout will be between the two of them. As this realization settles in, a spark of anticipation lights up in Alice. A faint glow seems to surround her as she admits that she has been looking forward to this moment ever since the matchups were announced. Ekanesha, correctly referred to as Ekanesha, regards the situation with quiet disdain, internally thinking that they are all foolish. She had originally intended to end the matter swiftly and without drawing any unnecessary attention. However, circumstances unfold differently, and soon it is Ekanesha and Alice who are engaged in sparring. The exchange between them is fluid and skillful, their movements precise and controlled, which draws the attention of those watching. As the duel progresses, Ekanesha finds herself momentarily distracted, wondering how she could have overlooked eyes like those. Despite her initial reluctance, she concludes that humoring this situation is not entirely unpleasant. Acting on this thought, she delivers a calculated strike, maintaining both composure and efficiency. Around them, murmurs begin to rise among the spectators. There is a growing consensus that she is nothing short of a genius of the century. Observers note that even against someone like Alice, it appears less like a duel and more like a sparring lesson being conducted by her. Some even speculate that if she were capable of using mana, she could rival an official knight. Others remark that the captain must have recognized her talent early on, questioning the rumors that she had entered through favoritism and wondering who could have possibly started such baseless claims. Eventually, a senior approaches Ekanesha and offers congratulations, acknowledging her as the #1 candidate among the first years. He remarks that until the next ranking match or duel, she stands firmly at the top. He further notes that when the full Academy ranking battle takes place, tension will spread throughout the ranks, and the upper positions will fall into chaos. Ekanesha responds politely, stating that he flatters her, though internally she is only thinking about returning as quickly as possible, finding the entire situation bothersome. The senior continues, expressing that he now understands why the captain chose her as a squire, believing that her talent must have been recognized long ago. He grows curious about her background, noting that her family is not known for swordsmanship, and wonders who trained her or whether she has been under the captain's guidance for a long time. She clarifies that she is entirely self-taught. This answer causes the senior to scoff internally, as he finds it difficult to believe that someone could reach such a level on their own. Ekanesha, uninterested in prolonging the conversation, asks for permission to leave, mentioning that she feels tired. A voice from the crowd remarks that the monster subjugation force assembled this time is far larger than usual, concluding that it must have been arranged under the captain's direct orders. Observers note that, judging by the sheer size of the team, this year's mission is bound to be particularly brutal. They begin to wonder just how dire the conditions in the canyon must be to warrant such preparation. As expected, the top 3 freshmen are all present, and many express anticipation at the opportunity to witness their abilities firsthand during an actual subjugation. Amidst this, Ekanesha questions the sudden change of plans, directing her inquiry toward Alice. She recalls that Alice had previously stated her intention to focus solely on refining her swordsmanship for the time being, yet her name now appears prominently on the bulletin board. Alice explains that she recently dueled with the cadet ranked 2nd and successfully exchanged positions. She admits that she did not wish to miss the opportunity to gain real battle experience through this mission. Ekanesha responds by pointing out that such experience could be gained later, questioning why Alice insists specifically on participating in the subjugation mission. In response, Alice reveals that her reason is simple: she does not want to miss her first mission alongside Ekanesha. This prompts Ekanesha to remind her that she had already offered to spar whenever she wished. However, Alice firmly maintains that sparring and real combat are entirely different, emphasizing the irreplaceable value of true battlefield experience. At that moment, Bayer arrives, noticing the two of them and expressing surprise that they have both secured positions in the rankings, especially achieving first place. He acknowledges their accomplishment as impressive. Alice steps forward and greets Bayer respectfully, stating that it is an honor to meet him. Bayer observes that she must be Alice Winterbell and casually remarks that there is no need for such formality. Ekanesha then questions whether he requires something from them. Bayer replies that it is nothing serious, mentioning that they must have already seen the notice. He explains that he simply came to remind them to prepare thoroughly, as regardless of their talent, this will be their first real battle. Alice acknowledges his advice, but also notes that, to her understanding, the Azure Sky Knights are usually dispatched based on incoming requests, whereas this subjugation mission feels somewhat different. Bayer confirms her observation, explaining that every spring, independent of external requests, the Azure Sky Knights select a region where monsters have become unusually rampant and carry out a large-scale subjugation. He adds that such missions also serve as a display of their strength. The designated target this time is White Raven Canyon, a place known for its ominous reputation. He continues by recounting that the canyon became a battlefield around the previous summer. Located near the border, it had been used for an ambush operation, resulting in the deaths of many soldiers. A battlefield where countless lives have been lost inevitably transforms into a breeding ground for monsters not long after. Upon hearing this, Ekanesha reflects internally. In her previous life, the Azure Sky Knights had been annihilated, after which monster attacks spread rapidly throughout the nation. Now, however, the captain along with the 3 great officers will be joining this mission, making it a significant operation. She recognizes that this will provide Alice with a valuable opportunity to gain real combat experience, but also understands the importance of staying close and strictly following orders. Alice expresses her gratitude to Bayer for his guidance. Ekanesha then asks whether he himself will be participating in the mission. Bayer responds affirmatively, stating that as the vice-captain's squire, it is only natural for him to be present. Hearing this, Ekanesha becomes certain that something significant is bound to occur during this mission. With that realization, she resolves internally that she must ensure that none of them, including the 2 standing before her, lose their lives. She also understands that she must determine whether any of the Gyoza owners still retain memories of the past that was erased at the entrance to White Raven Canyon on May 12, year 1629 of the Divine Calendar. As these thoughts settle in her mind, Ekanesha reflects on her current assignment. She realizes that she has been placed under Captain Urin, and this realization surprises her momentarily. Bayara notices her reaction and questions why she appears so taken aback, reminding her that she is, after all, the captain's squire. Ekanesha quickly regains her composure and acknowledges this fact. Bayara continues by pointing out that she only has 8 days remaining in her probation period, and given the nature of this subjugation, it is only natural that she would be assigned closely to her lord. He emphasizes that her duty is to remain by his side and provide support at all times. She responds with a clear understanding, affirming that she will fulfill her role properly. At that moment, Val remarks that the situation is rather convenient, as it allows close observation of the captain. Meanwhile, Bayara explains another practical matter to Ekanesha. As a squire, she is expected to set up a personal tent right beside her lord's. He assumes that she likely has no prior experience with such tasks and offers to help her, assuring her that it would take no more than 30 minutes. However, Ekanesha firmly insists that she is capable of handling it on her own. Just then, murmurs begin to spread among the other candidates. Their whispers draw attention toward her, suggesting that she is unwilling to engage in physical labor and attributing it to her being a lady. This unwanted attention immediately becomes a concern for her, especially considering the possibility of encountering other Gyoza owners under such scrutiny. Amid this tension, another voice makes a mocking remark toward Bayara, commenting sarcastically on the situation and its apparent warmth. Bayara recognizes the speaker and responds with visible irritation, clarifying that he is merely assisting a junior. The man is revealed to be Sir Dietrich. The moment Ekanesha hears his name, recognition strikes her. She instinctively lowers her face, recalling his distinct red hair. There is no doubt in her mind this is the same Dietrich who once escaped while Teresa held her back, attempting to deliver news of Zenka to Urin. Dietrich observes her calmly and remarks that her presence here indicates Teresa was unable to stop her. His words ignite a surge of emotion within Ekanesha, and for a brief moment, hostility rises between them. The memory of that past encounter resurfaces vividly in her mind, the image of blood splashing, Teresa's struggle, and the lingering presence of dried blood. The intensity of those memories nearly overwhelms her, but she forces herself to regain control. She analyzes the situation carefully. The weapon Dietrich carries is merely an ordinary rapier. If he had awakened his Gyoza, he would still possess it. This realization leads her to a crucial conclusion: Dietrich is no longer a Gyoza owner. At present, he is nothing more than a knight apprentice who has yet to reach mastery. In other words, he no longer retains any memory of the past events. Meanwhile, Dietrich casually shifts the conversation, teasing Bayara by asking whether Ekanesha is his girlfriend. Bayara immediately denies it, stating clearly that she is not. Dietrich, however, continues to joke, implying that perhaps she is simply not his girlfriend yet. Bayara urges him to stop making such remarks, clearly uncomfortable with the implication. Dietrich then questions Bahara's intentions, asking why he would go out of his way to help her set up a tent if there were no personal interest involved. Bayara responds that there is nothing wrong with assisting a junior. Dietrich counters this by pointing out that such actions can easily be misunderstood and suggests that if Bayara truly cares about her reputation, he should be more mindful of how his behavior appears to others. Bayara pauses and looks around, realizing that others are indeed watching and forming their own conclusion. At that moment, Ekanesha steps in and states that if he is concerned about her reputation, then he need not worry. Dietrich observes that she never actually requested Bahara's help in the first place. She responds calmly that regardless of whether she asked for it or not, the result remains the same: help was given. Dietrich accepts this and shifts his focus. Seeing her reminds him of something he intended to say. Ekanesha briefly wonders if his comment will concern her clothing, but he dismisses that idea, stating that her attire does not bother him at all. He then mentions that he has known a few geniuses, particularly their captain, who now resides above the clouds. He recalls that they were once roommates at the academy. From his observations, he concludes that all geniuses share a common trait: they are all somewhat unhinged. Each one expresses it differently, but in essence, they all possess a certain madness. As an ordinary individual, he admits that it is a world he cannot fully comprehend, so he chooses not to question it. He uses her clothing as an example of something he simply accepts without trying to understand. Ekanesha questions whether that was the sole reason he approached her, but he clarifies that it was not. He then openly states that the dress she is wearing suits her very well and that he finds it beautiful. He expresses that he likes it and suggests that they should get along moving forward. With that, he casually takes his leave, telling them to take care. As he departs, Whispers arise once more among the onlookers. Some remark that he is likely to become the next Gyoza owner and note his unusual personality. Ekanesha, on the other hand, finds herself wondering whether Dietrich had always been like this. Attention then shifts to a broader explanation of Gyoza. The Gyoza known as Lamingiosolis is described as a sword of conquest, taking the form of a twin blade. Another Gyoza, belonging to Akatsuki, manifests as a rapier with a blade that glimmers with a red, flame-like light. Its material is said to originate from human desire, specifically the yearning to conquer, ambition, greed, possession, the intense emotions felt in moments of triumph, and the burning will to sacrifice everything in order to gain something. These are the elements that forge such a weapon. This is known as the Sword of Conquest, a blade that resonates with the twin blade Daimon Gyoza. This connection raises an intriguing possibility regarding the relationship between these weapons. However, to fully understand that connection, one must wait and look forward to the next revelation surrounding Gyoza. Ekanesha lets out a quiet sigh, feeling as though a storm has just passed. The tension from earlier slowly settles, though its weight still lingers faintly in her chest. Baira approaches her soon after, offering an apology. He admits that he had only intended to help, but in doing so, he failed to think ahead and did not consider how his actions might affect her reputation. Ekanesha reassures him without hesitation. She explains that his help was not given out of any misplaced notion tied to her being a lady, but rather because she is his fellow squire. From her perspective, there is no reason for him to apologize. Her response eases him, and he expresses his gratitude for her understanding. With that matter resolved, Baira informs her that he will be taking his leave. He mentions that his barracks are located near the vice captain, and if anything goes wrong, she should not hesitate to seek him out. Ekanesha acknowledges this and thanks him once again. Once he departs, she gathers herself and turns her attention back to her responsibilities. There is still work to be done. As time passes, night falls, and Ekanesha is now inside her tent. Val notices her quiet focus and questions what has captured her attention. She reveals that she is looking at the cloak given to her by Yurin. She intends to return it that very night. This immediately sparks excitement in Val, who wonders if she plans to meet him in person. However, Ekanesha dismisses the idea. She does not dare to face him directly. Since he has not yet returned, she intends to leave the cloak behind while she has the opportunity. Val comments on her approach, remarking that sneaking around in such a manner lacks dignity. Ekanesha quietly insists that she has no other choice. Avoiding unnecessary encounters is essential, and she cannot afford to take risks. With that resolve, she makes her way into his tent. The moment she steps inside, something feels off. There is a presence within the barracks. She realizes too late that she has lowered her guard. She should have checked before entering. Just then, a candle is lit, illuminating the space. The figure inside is revealed to be Yurin. He notices her immediately and questions what has brought her there. Ekanesha explains that she came to return the cloak and apologizes for the delay. Yurin glances at the cloak before looking back at her. He steps closer, taking it from her hands. As she observes him, a subtle unease stirs within her. He feels different tonight, though she cannot immediately determine why. Yurin questions whether returning the cloak is truly her only reason for coming. She confirms that it is, though internally she finds herself wondering why he would ask such a thing. She then expresses her gratitude for the medicine and the ginger tea he had given her earlier. Yurin asks if they were helpful, and she responds that they helped her greatly. At this, he smiles. The sight catches her completely off guard. His expression is unguarded, almost gentle, as though there is a trace of genuine affection in the way he looks at her. In that instant, her eyes widened. A memory surfaces, an image of him from the past. The contrast between that memory and the man standing before her now unsettles her deeply, leaving her momentarily frozen in place. She thinks that this is ridiculous. Having such thoughts feels like an insult to Yurin. Turning away, she excuses herself and prepares to take her leave. Yurin calls out to her, asking her to wait, and wonders whether she has ever faced monsters before. At the mention of monsters, her thoughts drift. When she was consumed by the cursed sword, its runes were always filled with emerging creatures, and back when she wandered through the gathering nights, hunting monsters had been unavoidable. There had even been a time when she was trapped in that dreadful place, barely managing to escape with her life. Yet she cannot bring herself to reveal any of this aloud, so she simply answers that she has seen monsters before, adding that they are nothing like humans in battle. Yurin wonders how she learned to fight such beings, and she replies that she has experience to some extent. This prompts him to state that he does not doubt her swordsmanship, but he cautions that monsters are unpredictable and advises her to stay close to him and not act recklessly. She questions this, wondering how he can claim not to doubt her skill when he has never truly seen her wield a blade. Yurin explains that he witnessed her entrance examination and is aware of the outcome of her ranking duel, acknowledging that she is exceptional. She turns away, offering thanks for what she considers high praise, and apologizes for disturbing his rest. Yurin grows slightly saddened and clarifies that he was not sleeping, assuring her that there is no need for concern. He tells her to return and rest well. As she walks away, Val's voice surfaces, mocking the situation and calling it ridiculous that Yurin warns her about monsters when she herself could easily overpower him. Ekanesha immediately silences Val, ordering him to stop and forbidding him from even mentioning Yurin's name again. Val responds with confusion, pointing out that he has long since died and questioning why she is being so sensitive. Back in her tent, Ekanesha reflects on the encounter, wondering why Yurin had made that particular expression and what thoughts had crossed his mind when he spoke. She finds herself unable to understand. That night, she dreams of a grand ballroom filled with brilliant colors. In the dream, she is dancing with someone whose face remains unclear, yet his mysterious smile lingers. He feels warm and gentle, so much so that it stirs an emotion within her that makes her feel as though she might cry. By the next day, Yurin addresses everyone, announcing that from this moment forward, they will begin the White Crow Canyon subjugation. The atmosphere in a place like this feels intensely oppressive, so much so that it would not be strange if a monster were to suddenly show up at any moment. Baira turns toward Ekanesha and asks whether she is mentally prepared for what lies ahead. She replies that she is more or less ready, though a trace of uncertainty lingers within her thoughts. At the same time, she wonders why he is not accompanying them. Baira explains that he will remain in the barracks with the master, since someone must stay behind to guard the camp and ensure its safety. From a rational standpoint, Baira is supposed to die during this monster's subjugation, yet no one truly knows how his death occurs. The only clue that exists is that the event takes place on a rainy night, an ominous detail that weighs heavily on the mind. Baira notices her troubled expression and asks why she looks so uneasy. He reminds her to take care of herself and warns her not to leave the commander's side under any circumstances. She acknowledges his advice, thinking to herself that they are expected to return before nightfall, so everything should remain under control. Soon, the scene shifts to the battlefield, where all the soldiers are actively fighting the monster. The sheer number of creatures is overwhelming, creating a chaotic and terrifying spectacle. Observers reflect that the wall must have endured a brutal siege, recalling reports that boiling oil had been poured onto the enemy in desperate defense. It becomes clear why the monsters have overrun the place. The devastation is too great to ignore. Yet, no matter how numerous the monsters appear, when they stand before the master, they are reduced to nothing more than walking corpses. At that moment, Yurin's single motion, merely a shift of his stance, is enough to wipe out a large portion of the monster. Many fail to notice his sword at first, but the weapon carries a long and powerful history. Long ago, a blacksmith is said to have used humanity's sense of justice itself as the material to forge this blade. Into it, he engraves the very essence of duty that humanity holds sacred. Humans regard this weapon with awe and reverence, the holy sword Langiosa, known as an amplifier of mana and a destroyer of evil. The sword possesses a soul of its own, one that grows stronger whenever it faces evil. However, it refuses to accept a killer as its wielder, choosing only those deemed worthy of its purpose. Unlike ordinary swords, which can be carried and stored in conventional ways, sacred weapons like this can be stored and summoned through engraved sigils once a person becomes their rightful owner. But not with Langiosa. Unlike other sacred weapons that can be stored through sigils, she has to carry it on her back at all times. The sword appears white and beautiful, almost divine in its presence, yet it is never truly granted to her, just as Yurin himself is never granted to her fate in any lasting way. She recalls hearing that Yurin has no backup unit assigned to him, yet the more she reflects on it, the more it makes sense. With a skill like his, there is no real need for one. At that moment, she notices that one of the monsters suddenly grabs Ekanesha's foot. In response, Ekanesha reacts instantly, delivering a swift kick that frees her from its grip. Without hesitation, she follows with a precise strike of her blade, cutting the creature down in a single decisive motion. Nearby, Theo points her out to Mikhail, urging him to observe carefully. He remarks that there is not even a speck of dirt on her face, as though a monster has found another monster and turned her into a spy among them. Meanwhile, Ekanesha herself is not thinking about glory or recognition. Instead, she worries about her boots, since she truly likes them and does not want them ruined in the mud and blood of battle. As she steadies herself, she notices the storm clouds beginning to gather overhead. The sky darkens, heavy with the promise of rain, and she realizes they should return to camp soon, because remaining here any longer will become dangerous. She glances back and notices Yurin standing still, his gaze fixed on the sky. After assessing the changing weather, he declares that it is enough for the day. He announces that the weather is turning, so they will postpone the afternoon hunt and return to the captain immediately. At his command, all the soldiers respond in unison, acknowledging him with disciplined obedience. After issuing his orders, he turns toward Ekanesha. The two of them hold each other's gaze for a brief but noticeable moment. He commends her for her efforts, acknowledging her good work and instructing her to rest once they return to camp. As he turns and leaves, Ekanesha feels a strange sensation stirring within her chest, an uneasy feeling that she cannot easily explain. Val speaks up, sensing that something feels certain and familiar about the situation. Before he can finish his thought, she answers him, acknowledging what he is about to say. He remembers the day Byra died, and not only that, he remembers everything that had once been erased from memory. Back at her tent, Val questions Ekanesha, wondering whether Urin is keeping watch over Byra. He suggests that perhaps they should simply observe from a distance, because if Urin truly remembers, then he will take care of matters himself. Ekanesha reflects deeply on Urin, and at last she begins to understand the meaning behind his earlier words. She realizes that Urin likely retains memories from before the regression. If that assumption is true, then new questions begin to form in her mind. She wonders why he continues to keep her alive if he truly remembers the past. She questions why he does not attempt to kill her, and why he shows no visible hatred toward her, even though she is the one who once brutally killed him. Her thoughts spiral further as she wonders how much regret he must have felt in the past, and how deeply he might have resented her for what she did. Yet the situation remains deeply confusing, because his behavior contradicts her expectation. She cannot reconcile the memory of her past cruelty with the kindness he has shown her in the present. She reasons that if he truly remembers everything, then there is no logical way he would behave so calmly and generously toward her. Perhaps he remembers fragments but lacks proof, leading him to observe her cautiously rather than act immediately. She concludes that he likely does not know who turned back time, and therefore he is investigating her. In his eyes, she is merely a cadet who did not exist in the past timeline, someone suspicious enough to warrant careful scrutiny. At the same time, she suspects that he might be consciously testing whether she is the demon bound to the cursed sword. That possibility feels like the only explanation that makes sense. In her mind, she imagines that he is deliberately keeping her close, watching her movements carefully until evidence reveals her guilt. She fears that once he becomes certain that Ekanesha is the demon of the cursed sword, he will act without hesitation. Before she can continue her train of thought, a strange and unfamiliar sound echoes nearby. The noise instantly breaks her concentration. Val also reacts, sensing that something is wrong. Suddenly, she notices movement in the distance and realizes what is happening. She informs Val that Urin is heading somewhere with clear urgency, as though he has detected something that demands immediate attention. Ekanesha declares that she will also follow him, yet Val questions what would happen if she were caught. She reassures him that she intends to erase her presence with magic, believing that this method will be effective enough that Urin will not notice her presence. Val continues to question whether she truly needs to go that far, worrying about what might happen at the camp while Urin is away. However, she explains that she does not plan to follow him too far. The simple fact that he has left the barracks already proves that he knows something, and to her, this moment presents the perfect opportunity to confirm exactly what his objective is. Urin is seen moving ahead, focused on his own task, while Ekanesha carefully follows behind him at a distance. Val wonders aloud about the reason for his return to the canyon, questioning whether he has simply grown bored and decided to hunt monsters again. That thought causes Ekanesha to reflect that although many people assume Urin behaves recklessly like that, to her it appears that he is searching for something specific rather than acting out of boredom. Soon, it becomes clear that Urin is indeed searching with purpose. After scanning the surroundings, he finally draws his sword. Ekanesha remains confused, uncertain about what he is trying to accomplish. Without hesitation, he swings the blade and slashes through one of the rocks nearby. As the rock is torn apart, hidden movement is revealed. Several monsters emerge from the opening, crawling outward from within the stone. The creatures are specters. At that moment, realization dawns on Ekanesha. She begins to understand the kind of accident that must have caused Bahara's death in the past. Specters are known to be among the most dangerous types of monster. They cling to humans and take control of them, turning the victim into their unwilling host. Master-level knights possess the strength to resist possession, but those who are not masters remain helpless, forced to watch as mere spectators within their own bodies. Specters can spawn within camps without warning, and when that happens, many ordinary members become possessed and slaughtered without mercy. Byra must have been caught in such chaos during the earlier tragedy. That realization explains why Urin has come here alone. He is unaffected by specters, making him uniquely suited to handle such threats. If that is true, then he is the only GIOS owner who still remembers these events. If there had been other owners who remembered, they would have arrived beforehand to deal with the specters before disaster struck. Ekanesha cannot help but wonder why, among all people, Urin is the only one who retains these memories. Val urges her to look ahead, pointing out the overwhelming number of specters gathering around them. The danger appears immense, yet Ekanesha remains calm. She reassures herself that everything will be fine. Langiosa is known as the strongest sword when facing evil, and as she believes, a single strike from it is enough to eliminate even large numbers of specters. She reflects on how formidable both Langiosa and Urin are together. After watching the threat subside, she suggests that they should return to camp. As she walks back, relief begins to settle within her thoughts. She silently expresses gratitude that the specters have been eliminated. With them gone, Baira and the others will no longer die as they once did. For the first time, she feels that she can allow herself a small sense of relief. However, that calm feeling vanishes almost instantly when an unfamiliar sensation washes over her. Something feels wrong. Her gaze shifts toward the barracks, and Val immediately notices her sudden tension, questioning what has happened. Without wasting another second, she breaks into a run, urgently declaring that a node has appeared. Val is stunned, unable to understand why a node would manifest in that location. Ekanesha herself admits that she does not know the reason either. If Urin had been aware of its existence, he would never have allowed the camp to be established in that area. That realization leads her to conclude that this node is something new, an event that never occurred before. The danger it poses is absolute. If anyone is dragged into it, survival will be impossible. Around them, cadets begin shouting frantically, ordering everyone to evacuate immediately. Panic spreads throughout the camp as people rush in every direction. Amid the chaos, Ekanesha notices that alias Fatima, the other GIOS owner, appears to have evacuated successfully. Yet one troubling thought lingers in her mind: she cannot see Baira anywhere. Her eyes continue searching until she finally spots him. At that same moment, a senior cadet calls out to Baira. The senior explains that he has checked all of the cadet barracks except for one of the freshman barracks assigned to Ekanesha. Because she is a squire, her quarters are separated from the others. Baira acknowledges that he knows the exact location of her barracks and decides that they should head there together. The senior expresses gratitude, admitting that he could not approach alone because of the node's dangerous proximity. At that very moment, Ekanesha desperately calls out to Baira, urging him not to go any closer because the area is far too dangerous. However, she quickly realizes that her voice will not reach him across such distance. The chaos of the crowd and the overwhelming noise prevent her words from carrying, and there are too many people nearby for her to safely use mana. Soon, Baira reaches Ekanesha's tent and calls out, searching for her presence. No response comes. The tent is empty, giving the impression that she has already evacuated ahead of time. Believing that she is safe, he decides that they should leave immediately now that the barracks have been checked. Unfortunately, the node looms dangerously close beside them. At that same moment, Ekanesha shouts once again, urging Baira to escape from the area. He feels relief at the thought that she is already safe somewhere else. Yet in the next instant, betrayal unfolds. The senior cadet suddenly pushes Baira forward, forcing him directly into the node. The force pulls him inward as he is dragged helplessly toward the swirling void. Ekanesha screams out Bahara's name in horror as she watches the devastating scene unfold before her eyes. On the other side, she notices the senior cadet trembling uncontrollably, muttering in fear. His body shakes as if overwhelmed by guilt or terror. Ekanesha's expression hardens, and she glares at him with burning intensity, her emotions shifting rapidly from panic to fury.